Hello, Spanish 2 students. So this is the video for, what week is it? The week of January 22nd through the 26th. And we are going to be talking about irregular verbs in the preterite. So hopefully by now, we are decent at forming the preterite for our regular verbs. So today we are going to take a special look at irregular verbs, and that's going to be our only focus this week. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to go through the notes with you. And then we're even going to look at some examples directly from your worksheet for this week. So that way, if you have any questions, hopefully they get answered in this video, and you don't have to stress about what to do on the worksheet. Hopefully that works out. So I am going to share my screen. Not that one. This one. Okay. So today we are going to be talking about irregular verbs in the preterite. So just some basic stuff to remember from the notes from a couple weeks ago. Good news, stem changing verbs do not experience their stem change in the preterite form. So stem changing is something we don't even have to think about, which is great. But on the other hand, the bad news is that there are still a handful of irregular verbs. And these verbs are conjugated irregularly. And we have to be familiar with these because if we experience them, it's really going to throw you for a loop. And I want you to be as prepared as possible. I know this is kind of frustrating, but yes, you will need to write all this down. You're missing out on the in-person class experience. And if you have me for Spanish 1, you know that we take a lot of notes. Even if you had Miss Anderson for Spanish 1, you know that notes are important. There's something to be said about writing something down. It helps you remember it that much better. So you need to have these in front of you on a piece of paper when you're doing your work. So the first irregular verb that we are going to look at is actually a combo. So strangely enough, in Spanish, in the preterite, the verb ir, which means to go, and the verb ser, which means to be, they're going to share a conjugation chart. They're going to have the exact same conjugations, which is really weird. If you look at the chart, it's completely random. It doesn't look like either verb, but we just have to roll with the punches. So we are going to have to use context to figure out in the sentence, like, is this using ser or is this using ir? This is going to be an entire section on your work for this week. And hopefully if you watch this video, if you pay attention to the notes, it will be a breeze. So we're going to go through and we're going to say the conjugations. So let's practice because they are weird. So we have fui, fuiste, fue, fuimos, fuisteis, and fueron. One more time, just in case, you were too cool to say it. Fui, fuiste, fue, fuimos, fuisteis, and fueron. So here are two examples. We have the sentence, yo fui a la biblioteca, which is going to be I blank to the library. And we have to decide, is that using ir or is it using ser? So yo fui a la biblioteca, I blank to the library. So if we look down here at our explanation, we can use the context of this sentence to determine that we are going to be using the verb ir, because the English translation only makes sense. It is only a logical sentence if it reads, I went to the library. If I say I was the library, that's incoherent. It doesn't really make sense. And then on the other hand, we have the example, tú fuiste muy malo. You blank very bad. So the second example would be an example using the infinitive ser, because it's trying to say that you were very bad, not that you went very bad. Okay, two more charts that you need to write down. We have the verb dar, which is to give. And you'll notice when you look at these, the endings are pretty much regular for ER and IR verbs, but dar is an AR verb. So that's why it's irregular. So we have di, diste, dio, dimos, disteis, dieron. So make sure you have that chart written down. And then we're going to come over here to hacer. So hacer is to do or to make. We have hice, hiciste, hizo, hicimos, hicisteis, and hicieron. So if you notice, the H at the beginning of the word, just like every other H you see in Spanish, is not pronounced. You're going to ignore it. So hice, hiciste, hizo, hicimos, hicisteis, hicieron. So if you need to pause the video to finish writing down these words, that's totally fine. But we're going to move on. So the good news is basically all other irregular verbs that we are going to worry with follow a pattern after those 3 or 4 that we wrote down specifically. So the pattern that they are going to follow, the irregular verbs will be given a new stem. So they have a new beginning that they're going to use only for the preterite. And then you are going to pick the appropriate ending based on this chart, which is kind of like a combination or a hybrid of the AR preterite endings and the ER-IR preterite endings. So we have iste, o, imos, isteis, hieron. And you'll notice there are no accents on the E and the O, or the yo and the LA usted form. So now I'm going to show you a rather comprehensive chart with about 10 or 12 verbs that we are going to use that are irregular, and you do need to write them down. So we have venir, estar, poder, poner, saber, tener, querer, decir, traer, conducir, and traducir. There are about 20 more of these, 15, 20 more, but they're kind of obscure verbs that we probably aren't going to use. So I thought you probably shouldn't write them down. Might as well save our time. So these are the new stems for the words that we are going to use in the preterite. So for venir, you need to write down vin, and then you're going to add on the appropriate endings for the sentence. Estar will be estuve, poder will be pud, poner will be pus, saber will be sup, tener will be tuv, querer will be quis, decir will be dich, and that J is going to make an H sound. Traer will be traj, conducir will be conduj, and then traducir will be traduj. And one special little tidbit of information. So these 4 that end in a J, if you conjugate them to the LA usted form, you don't actually include the I. You leave the I off. But anyway, so make sure you have these down. I even included the definitions in case you didn't know. And here is one example of these irregular verbs. So we have the verb querer, which is to want. And it has a preterite stem of quis. So you take our new stem, quis, and you just add those irregular endings to it. So to say I wanted, I would say quise. Take that stem and add the yo ending. To say you wanted, I say quisiste. Take the stem and add the to ending. To say he or she wanted, I take the new stem, which is quis, and then add the appropriate ending, quiso. And you do that with each subsequent form. We're going to look at another example, which is the verb tener. So the verb tener means to have in English, and the preterite stem of tener is going to be tuv. So I'm going to take tuv, and I'm going to add these endings to it. So I have tuve, tuviste, tuvo, tuvimos, tuvisteis, tuvieron. Excellent. And that is the end of the notes. So what we are going to do now, we are going to look at your work for the week. We're going to do some examples together. Now, hopefully, I can get my computer to cooperate. Wouldn't that be nice? Okay. Let me make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Oh, I wasn't. Okay, so you should be able to see this now. This is your worksheet. So section 1. We have ser versus ir. I'm going to read the directions right here. So read the following sentences and fill in the blank with the correct form of ser or ir. Remember, they have the same conjugation chart. This is going to be the fui, fuiste, fue, fuimos, fuisteis, fueron. So then, after you've filled in the blank, you are going to read the sentence and figure out, does that sentence use to go or to be? So let's we'll look at the first 3 because I'm feeling crazy. So that's 30% of this first section that's done for you. So we have esta mañana, Brandon blank al supermercado con su madre. So to start off, I'm just gonna, let's see if I can draw this in a legible way. So we have fui. I'm just gonna write this out so we can see them. And you guys can visualize along with me. Okay, so this is the chart we're going to use for all of these. So in the first sentence, number 1, our subject is Brandon. So we have to look at our chart. Which form would we pick for Brandon? Well, since Brandon is the same as saying L, I'm going to pick fue. So Brandon fue al supermercado con su madre. So second step, this little bullet point at the bottom, did the sentence use ser or ir? So the easiest way to figure this out is just to translate it. So this morning, esta mañana, Brandon blank the supermarket with his mom. So would it make more sense to say this morning Brandon was the supermarket with his mom, or Brandon went to the supermarket with his mom? So say, Miss Clevenger, that's a stupid question. Obviously, it is went. So we're going to pick the verb ir. Okay. Number 2, nuestra visita con el dentista blank por una hora. So our visit, so visit is going to be our subject. And to conjugate visit into Spanish using this chart, we would also pick fue. So the translation is going to be our visit with the dentist blank for an hour. Would we say, this one could kind of, doesn't really make the best sense in English because it could go either way in English. So our visit with the dentist was an hour, or our visit with the dentist went for an hour. So the more correct version, we're going to say our visit with the dentist was an hour, or it lasted for an hour. So we're going to pick ser. And then number 3, la película blank muy cómica. So our subject is película, the movie. And this one, yet again, should have mixed these up a little better, is going to be fue. So now we have to look at the translation at the bullet point. So did this sentence use ser or did it use ir? So would I say the movie was very funny or the movie went very funny? The more logical option is going to be to say the movie was very funny. We're going to pick the form of ser. Okay. So you guys are going to go through the rest of these sentences and try and suss them out, feel them out. And we're going to look at section 2. Complete the following sentences with the correct form of the verb in parentheses. You guys are old pros at this. You guys know this is expected of you in Spanish class. You have to be able to conjugate the verbs. And then provide a translation of the sentence in English. I tried to use words that you've seen before. So there's not really a need for you guys to use Google Translate on this. I don't want you to use Google Translate. Some of you sneaky snakes, I don't know if you can see me because I'm screen sharing, but I'm pointing dramatically at the camera, are relying far too much on Google Translate. I'm really going to have to start putting my foot down. I think last week I said in the instructions of your assignment, if it's clear you've relied fully on Google Translate, you're getting a 0 until you submit your own work. Because that is what we call cheating. You're not doing it yourself, you're cheating. And I can like hear someone saying, I'm using my resources. No. Anyway, section 2. So we're going to do 3 of these as well. And this is actually easier than section 1 because I tell you the verb and you just have to fill in the blank. So we have yo blank al parque ayer con mis amigos. So we just used a bunch of the forms of ir. That chart that I wrote up there, that's ir. So the yo form on that chart is fui. Yo fui al parque ayer con mis amigos. So this, I'm not going to write it out because I'm kind of sloppy. I'll try. Who cares? So it's going to be, I went to the park yesterday. Then we have con mis amigos, with my friends. I went to the park yesterday with my friends. Okay. Number 2, we have the subject, mis amigos, my friends, and the verb hacer. So hacer was one of those charts you wrote down on its own. And the conjugation for hacer, for mis amigos, from that chart is going to be hicieron. So mis amigos hicieron la tarea para la clase de inglés. This is going to read, my friends did the homework for English or for English class. And then our third final one, we have el perro. And then we have the infinitive bear. Okay, I'll give you guys a second, see if you all can figure this one out in your own, on your own, I mean. Okay, so we have el perro vio el gato inmediatamente. So we have the dog saw the cat immediately. The dog saw the cat immediately. I just realized something. So on number 8, I didn't put a verb. I'll go back and do that for your alls. We're going to use ear. One more time. Okay, so I'm going to pull up the second part of this worksheet, which is actually the more complex part. Okay, so section 3, we are going to read the following paragraph, and you'll notice it's written in the present tense. It's using the verb conjugations that we've learned since last year. So we are going to identify the verbs that are in each sentence. Then we are going to change them so they're no longer in the present, but that they're in the preterite tense. So I've provided a chart for you with an example. Oh, and a hint. There will be a minimum of 1 verb per sentence, because we know in English and in Spanish, to have a complete sentence, you have to have a subject and a verb. Okay, so we have mi mejor amigo se levanta a las 6 de la mañana. So this is my first example. The verb in this sentence is se levanta. So I wrote it down here. And the subject of the sentence is mi mejor amigo, my best friend. So that would be the same as putting it in the él or ella form. And levantar is an AR verb, so we're going to use our AR endings. And we are going to change the ending. So we're going to change that A to an accented O. Oh, what did I? Whoa. Sorry, I just figured out a different control on accident. So let's look at the second sentence. We have se cepilla los dientes. So he brushes his teeth. Our verb there is se cepilla. So this is going to be almost identical to our first one. So it is in the present tense, él, ella, usted form. So we just need to put it in the preterite. And cepillarse is an AR verb. So we will say se cepilló. So he brushed his teeth. Se cepilló los dientes. Then we have y desayuna unos huevos y tocino. And for breakfast, he eats some eggs and bacon. So our verb here is desayuna. He eats for breakfast. Our infinitive is desayunar, which is an AR verb. So we are going to take that AR verb. In the present tense, he eats some eggs and bacon for breakfast, and put it in the preterite. So we're going to say, él desayunó unos huevos y tocino. He ate some eggs and bacon for breakfast. And then our next and final example, we have va a la escuela. Our verb here is va, which if you remember from Spanish 1, is a form of the verb ir. So instead of saying va a la escuela, he goes to the school, we're going to say he went to the school. So we're going to take the L form of ir in the preterite, which is going to be fue. Okay, so if you're watching the video, I'm going to go through and underline the verbs. You're still going to have to read it to figure out what it's saying. But there you go. There are your verbs. Go through, find the form that they're in, and transcribe that into the preterite. Okay, if you have any questions, please contact me, message me, reach out. I'm here for you. Call me, beep me if you want to reach me. If you want to page me, that's okay. Anyway, have a great day.